celebrating the power of possibility.
My name is Kimberly Hill Davis, and I believe that anything is possible.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and this is part 2 of my conversation with Dr. Kimberly Hill Davis. I have a cousin. Her name is Kimberly Hill. Yeah. So this is family anyway. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Her story is amazing. Born and raised in Knoxville in the Oakland community. Was a great student with a bad attitude.
Yep.
Is that?
That's accurate.
Great student. She gets kicked out of Austin East High School. She ends up in Atlanta at Job Corps. She ends up homeless and pregnant at 17, but she's insanely creative. Mm-hmm. She learned that the mall, the Y, and MARTA
in libraries
can stitch together a place to be in the world when you have no place to be in the world. Right. And it makes a world of difference. Mm-hmm. And right at the end of your pregnancy, you decide to call your mom, come home. You have a beautiful daughter. Mm-hmm. And your mother says, okay, we close that chapter. You've got to do something, and you end up going to Knoxville College. And this is just part of the story. This is, okay, here we go. Welcome back. Thank you. I hope that's a good summary.
Yes, it was.
So you go to Knoxville College. Mm-hmm. You were saying something that about the fact that you would let fear paralyze you.
Yes.
And I've learned a fair amount about storytelling. And the one thing I've learned about storytelling is there's no way. I was at a workshop in New York, and this great screenwriter was talking about the fact that the only way you can take somebody that's a zero and turn them into a hero is by taking that protagonist and putting them in a crisis.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There has to be some fear. There has to be, because courage has no place to exist without fear.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
Courage is not the absence of fear, it's doing something in the face of fear. So you said you had that moment where you had been paralyzed by fear.
Yes.
The paralysis of fear does not eliminate fear, though. It's fear is just gonna be there.
Right.
So you have to make a choice about fear, and that choice is courage.
Right.
To act in the face of fear. So you hit that turning point. Was it an aha, or was it just a progression?
I think it was more of a progression, but overcoming fear and overcoming period became kind of a recurrent theme in my life. And I believe that early experience with overcoming fear and overcoming the paralysis that fear causes helped me with the rest of this story.
So you go to Knoxville College and you finish.
What do you decide you're going to be? College, I decide that I am going to work in corrections. So I graduated.
Why'd you make that decision?
Because I was a sociology major. Criminology, criminal justice is one of the parts that you can study in sociology, and it was just a part that I enjoyed. And I did an internship at Knoxville Police Department in criminalistics, enjoyed that work, and decided that was going to be my life's work, or so I thought. So I graduate from Knoxville College. My very first job out of college is at Brushy Mountain Prison.
Oh my.
As a pre-release counselor.
Oh my.
I didn't enjoy that job. Seeing people in circumstances that, even though some of them created them for themselves, just not, I found that there were two trains of thoughts in that field when I was in it, and it may be the same now, that you were either a rehabilitation person or you were a punishment person. And at that time, there was just a lot of punishment. And I was like, well, where is there ever an opportunity for people to redeem themselves? And how can people be given tools to redeem themselves? So I started working in the capacity of that job with helping inmates to get their GEDs. And I loved
something
it.
you knew something about.
Something that I knew something about. And I really enjoyed that. I felt like that was a key for inmates to leave and not recidivate and have to come back, because now they have tools to be able to go into the world and do something for themselves. And so I did that for a while. I left, and then after that I did probations and paroles, and I just realized I really enjoyed teaching. So I went back to school and got a master's in education and became a teacher. And I did that for several years. I taught at some of the same schools that I attended and enjoyed that, and then ended up going back to school to get my administrator's license, and ended up at Austin East High School.
My.
I ended up
Full
at Austin
circle.
East High School, full circle moment, while I was doing my practicum. That's where I did my practicum at Austin East. And just, I felt like God had brought me full circle. And I really enjoyed working with that population, and then was eventually moved to Corns High School and enjoyed working with that population, and developed an interest for working with students in transition from high school to college. And so I went back to school and got an EDS in educational administration, but my focus was working on the transitions, which was always my passion, even with inmates, working with them to transition to the world, working with high schoolers who were transitioning to college. And then my interest became, and passion became, working with students to make sure they stayed in college once they got there. Because my personal experience with college, I was aware of all the obstacles that it took, that certain populations dealt with when they attended college. First generation college students, minority college students, low income college students. It takes a little bit extra sometimes to stay once you get to college. So that's what I did.
That sounds real neat and tidy. It's a great, very tidy timeline. Mm-hmm. But there was a whole lot of pain in the middle of that timeline.
It has been. While I was working on my EDS, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Cancer.
After years of cancer. After years of just kind of dragging, knowing that maybe something wasn't quite right, but just needing to work and take care of myself and my, children. By then I had 2 children. I finally was set down with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I went through treatment with that at MD Anderson Cancer Center and with my cancer specialist here at UT Knoxville. Thought that was over and done, and 18 months later it was back, and it came back 3 times.
Triple cancer survivor.
Triple cancer survivor.
Possibility powered by Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel.
Now you can listen while you're on the go with Anything is Possible, the podcast. So when you get the diagnosis of cancer, now what do you think?
I was almost paralyzed by fear. I was almost paralyzed by fear. But I remembered, I've gotten through things. I've gotten through a lot of things, and this too I will get through. And so I had to leave.
Are you married at the time?
No, I was not married at the time. I was engaged at the time. I was engaged to get married at the time. And I did go on and get married. But the type of treatment that I needed was not available in Knoxville. And at the time, my husband was in the military, and he was deployed, and I had to make some decisions of whether I was going to try to go and get the help that I knew that I needed that wasn't available in Knoxville, which was a stem cell transplant, or was I going to just keep trying to have treatments to fight a recurrent cancer that had shown that it's going to keep coming back until we do something to interrupt that cycle. So throughout this whole process, I got married, I got divorced. It was just a lot going on. But I ended up going to Texas, Houston, Texas, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and I had that stem cell transplant. And a lot of that I had to do alone because my mother was taking care of my children.
Wow.
I'm now divorced.
Wow.
And I just had to go. I had to go where the help was.
Every one of these things is a knockout punch. Mm-hmm. Every one of them is the thing that makes people snap, break, fold. Every one. You got 10 things on the table now that should have permanently stopped you. Did you ever have a moment where you wanted to give up?
I can't recall having a moment where I wanted to give up, but I can remember asking God how much more. How much more? Like, you know, how much more could I take?
And
the answer was
more.
And why? I was asking why.
So in the middle of this timeline, because this show is called Anything is Possible, and I think one of the reasons I love telling these stories, and especially stories like yours, is because for anybody that's watching, whatever you're going through, keep going. There is a through.
It is a through.
Right. We put the spotlight on possibility. So when you hear these stories, I hope you will see and hear in these stories that it is possible to go from here to here. In the middle of this, triple cancer survivor, divorce, being homeless, all of that, you also lose a child.
Yes. So after I had my stem cell transplant, which was in 2018, I'm on the road to recovery. My daughter, my middle daughter, who was in the military and who had graduated from high school and who was really strong and independent, I didn't recognize that she had depression, some depression. She was so strong, and she I just did not realize there were signs that I didn't see. In 2018, after I'd had the stem cell transplant, and she was my caregiver through that, she would take leave and come to Texas, and I just did not see this one coming. Some of the other things, when you got bad behavior, you can predict maybe getting kicked out of school. When you don't really take care of your health as you should, you can predict maybe being ill. But I never thought in 2018 I'd come home and find my daughter had succumbed to depression.
And you found her?
My daughter and I found her, my youngest daughter and I found her.
What was that day like?
The worst day of my life. I measure life in before that day and after that day. And that almost stopped me. That almost stopped me. It took my youngest daughter telling me, I'm still here and I still need you to kind of wake me up from that. And so after that experience, like I told you, I measure life before and life after. I started questioning my why, like, why am I here? What am I here for? And at this time, I'm working at the University of Tennessee. I'm teaching in the leadership studies program. I'm teaching future leaders at the University of Tennessee at the time. And I'm looking at students that are around the same age as my daughter that I lost. And I started to notice things that I had never noticed before. I started to notice the students who were the outliers, not the students who just come in right away and jump in and get engaged on campus. I started noticing the students who were a little quiet, the students who hadn't really found their tribe on campus, their niche, their group of people. And I started talking to those students. And I found a new purpose. After the loss of my daughter, I started working with students holistically on their success. And I knew that that was more than academic. So.
Gave you a bigger why.
It gave me a bigger why.
You also found great love, though.
I did.
You found the one.
The one.
Tell me about your husband. As we were getting ready to do the interview, you said, I have a really great husband, and you lit up like you're lighting up now.
Yeah.
Talk about finally finding love, because I would imagine through your story, there are a lot of painful relationships that brought you to this moment. Just like the loss of your daughter recalibrated your sensitivities. I think sometimes when we go through difficult and painful relationships, it opens your eyes to beautiful relationships.
Right. Well, I can say, those struggles with those relationships kind of made me, kind of standoffish with the relationships. I'm going to just focus on work. I'm going to focus on, all of these passions that I have now discovered I have, like making sure that I'm on boards, like Home Source, to make sure there's affordable housing so people don't end up homeless. Or I was a young parent that didn't have prenatal care, so I'm on the Genesis Charitable Birthing Services Board to make sure people have adequate care while they're pregnant. I'm just throwing myself into that type of work, trying to develop programs for students who are smart, capable students to make sure they're successful in college. I'm just throwing myself into that work. But personally, I'm just kind of just floating through life, not looking, not even really being that receptive to it. But one day, a friend from college, a really smart, kind guy from college that I hadn't seen in over 20 years, thanked me for being kind to his mother, who had been a UT student several years before that. That's all. Hey, my mom asked about you all the time and just said thank you and asked how you were doing. And that ended up being James Davis. And so we just talked and rekindled our friendship, and I knew why everyone before that didn't work out.
Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
Now, take us with you with Anything is Possible, the podcast. Stream new episodes weekly wherever you get your podcasts.
What'd you learn about love? Because I know your husband from way, way, way back, and I just was always so impressed with his spirit. Mm-hmm. He has an incredible, warm spirit. Yeah. He's a philosopher. He's a thinker. He cares about people. Yeah. So, but what did you learn about love?
That it's possible.
Yeah.
Even after great disappointments, that it's possible. And in this relationship with James, I have learned a lot about reflection, because in reflecting on some of the things that I've experienced in life, it has set me up for some of the things that I'm doing now and even that I'm going to be doing in the future. I learned a lot about forgiveness.
Ooh, say more about that.
Just talking to him about some things, I just learned that we can never judge people by their worst mistake, because we don't know what factors led into that. My dad being absent made me angry. And it's my responsibility to deal with that anger. But my dad may have had some disappointments, things that made him unavailable. So I have to forgive him, and I want to be forgiven for the mistakes that I made. So just having those kind of conversations with a person who thinks deeply like my husband thinks has been really good for me.
What's the future? What are you working on? What are you looking forward to? What are the new possibilities on the horizon?
Well, I'm working on a book about these experiences. There's a lot of comedy in some of these books. I've done a stand-up comedy show on some of these things. Yes, at Harrah's Cherokee Casino, I did a show where I won a comedy show.
That's amazing.
Just telling some of these crazy stories, like living in the mall. I'm writing a book. I'm continuing to create programs and working with programs on things that I care about.
Give me the rules of possibility. What have you learned about possibility? If somebody's watching right now and they're like, how do I get through all I'm going through? What are the rules?
When you are tired, you rest, you don't quit. That's one big one that I learned.
When you're tired, you rest, but don't quit.
You don't quit.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. And if you can remember that this is a moment that you will get through, because that for me was big, especially when I had cancer. Those were moments. Those were moments that I had to get through to get to something better. I learned so much about healthcare and advocacy, and I use that every day when I talk to people. I've learned that the experiences that I've gone through are not just for me, they're to help other people. And so it's possible to survive great hardship, to be able to help people survive their great hardship.
Where are you with cancer?
I've been cancer-free since 2018, since I had that stem cell transplant.
That is awesome.
Yes.
Where are you with God?
I'm in a great place with God because I think the lessons that He needed me to get, like forgiveness, acceptance, accepting people for who they are, and forgiving people for who you wanted them to be and they aren't. I think that puts me in a pretty good place with God.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Dr. Kimberly Hill Davis.
Yes.
Well done, and more to do. Thank you for being such a great example of possibility, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.